excitement. So those things like intimate events like hackers, makers, developers, like a bunch of those people are entrepreneurs building products, thinking of starting products. So the whole idea is to have a conversation that's fairly educational for them, fairly tactical. We can do that. But before jumping into it, I'd love to hear the Indiegogo story, how the whole thing started, and in some detail.
Sure. So my name is Slava. I'm one of the founders. There's three of us. I'm the CEO of Indiegogo. We came up with the idea in 2006. So there was three founders. We all had mutual frustration of trying to raise money using the internet. Eric was on the board of a theater company. Danae was working with different filmmakers and entrepreneurs. And I started my own charity because my dad died of cancer when I was a kid, when I was 15. And then 10 years later, in 2005, I tried to turn the negative into something I should deal with, because for 10 years I didn't talk about it. I'm from Belarus, born in Belarus, so like a good Eastern European, I kept my emotions to myself. And as a New Year's resolution, I used MySpace and PayPal at the time to try to raise money for what becomes Music Against Myeloma, which is a charity that I started. It was really, really difficult to raise money, in my opinion. I was what I thought quite technologically savvy, and really frustrating. So Eric and I were best friends at college. We worked at the same consulting firm. He had the technology side and I on the strategy side. After 6 years, he went to get his MBA at Haas in California, and I, like any good friend, went to go visit so I could get drunk and hang out. And in that first 4 weeks when they just started school, he met Danae, and like any good business school students, they have to come up with an entrepreneurial idea to create for the next couple of years. And there was brainstorming ideas. I went to dinner with them, and we were just sharing our experiences. If you could actually remember what it's like in the fall of 2006, it's really a long time ago, is Twitter is nascent, YouTube is not owned by Google, MySpace is bigger than Facebook, and Obama's not a word for those people. So some interesting things were happening though, because the internet was already democratizing a lot of things. YouTube was starting, and eBay was already interesting, and access to capital was all about knowing the right person. So we had this very naive idea, which is, why not just use the internet to democratize who gets to give money to whatever idea? So we launched in January 2008, and so now we distribute money in 70 to 100 countries a week. We're the largest funding platform in the world, and it's exciting.
And so what happened in the middle?
You want more detail? What happened in the middle? I could spend the rest of the night.
Yeah, so sort of like, how did you get to like an initial mass of people?
We bootstrapped the company. There was already demand to invest in us before we launched in January 2008, but I was trying to be really smart, and I figured we could bootstrap to get a higher valuation later. So my plan was in Q1 to launch and to try to get customers, in Q2 to be able to promote those customers and show that we have case studies, and in Q3 go to the market to raise money. And the plan was actually working quite well, except in Q3 of 2008, if you recall, the market crashes, and we had one of the greatest depressions in the history of the world, which becomes a really big problem for us because we actually had enough money bootstrapped to last till about September of 2008. Fast forward till the summer of 2010, and we still have not a penny given to us. So if anybody's looking to lose weight, you just need to go on the founder diet, and it works very well. Social life does not get improved when you look fit. And we've just been there for a while. The market started coming back in late 2009, 2010. And we raised an angel round, a seed round of, was actually a convertible note of $275,000 in 2010. We proceed to, that was through like virtually from Google, one of the early guys at Google and some other folks. And then in 2011, we get our seed round of $1.5 million. 14 months later, we raised a B round of $15 million. And we've been using that, we've been growing. How do we get our first customers? You have to decide in a marketplace, which is a very tricky business model. It's kind of like Ferris Bueller's Day Off. If you've ever seen a movie where he says about the car, he's like, if you have the means, I highly recommend you get one. Well, if you have the ability, I highly recommend you create a marketplace. It's an amazing, the investor is smiling because he knows a marketplace is an incredible business model to invest into if it works. But to create a marketplace is very difficult when you have the classic supply and demand two-sided model. And we strategically decided to go after supply because we thought that if we get the right campaign owners, they'll be able to find the funders, and we'll create the product experience. We'll be able to get people to want to cross-fund across different verticals and everything. And that's what we did, and we kept on working at it. But we had dark days. I mean, in 2009, it's really hard to explain. I mean, we were thinking about closing a shop regularly. There was no money to be had. The economy was busted. And my co-founder Eric likes to say, beyond all reason and logic, we just continue to move forward. I think it's actually also because it's our first company for all three of us. All of us were naive enough and dumb enough to think it was okay what was going on. So we just kept on going on. If I had the same experience now after 2 years, I mean, it would be pretty clear that it wasn't working. But we kept on going, and yeah, it was interesting. I can give you more details, I mean, it's whatever you want.
It's such a cool story.
Oh, the other thing is, just so you can appreciate it, as part of raising the seed round of $1.5 million, we got turned down by those 85 companies. And I have a really great who's who of who turned me down. I mean, it's everybody. 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 So it was pretty remarkable. So in case you think that like Indiegogo was obvious and easy and you know, he's the lucky one and we wish you were lucky winning the lottery, it was nothing like that.
And so the 86 one, I mean, you would have.
Well, the people that actually ended up funding us was metamorphic. Well, the thing is, when everybody keeps turning you, yeah, the thing is, when everybody keeps turning you down, and the only way you can survive is if you have money, you make sure to figure out how to make more money out of your product. So it's actually not an accident that often very good companies, most of the best companies, come out of a down cycle in the economy. Most of the companies that are going public right now came out of a down economy. I don't know if that's an exact science, because maybe when everything is fat and gluttonous, people would get really risky and don't really see how to get the true results. But many of the companies that are IPOing these days came out of a down economy. Combine that with the fact that I was Eastern European immigrants, you know, we just became really good at making sure that if we spent money, we had to figure out that it was going to make us money. So we were actually profitable when we raised our seed round. And that was not because we were cool, it was because there was no other option. So we just had to figure it out. And yeah.
And that was what got you to become a tech investment. Was there just the fact that revenues were ramping up, or you had evolved the pitch or evolved the market position? You know, in other words, if you're in this situation, do you just keep on knocking on more doors, or do you sort of evolve fundamentally what you're offering?
You know, I'm really jealous of the people who they just can pull together a deck and they have just an idea, they walk in, they come out with $5 million or whatever, because I got turned down even by Metamorphic 4 times in a year. 4 times. But the people that actually ended up investing in us. And the only way that I actually got the money, I would say, is because I would walk in and they say, well, where do you think you'll be in a month from now or 2 months from now? Oh, I think we're going to hit this number. You think? I'm like, yeah, that's a really aggressive number. I think we're going to hit that. So I come back a month or 2 months from now, I was like, see, we hit that. Yeah, that's good. But where do you think you'll be another 2 or 3 months from now? I'm like, I think we're going to be at this number. Okay, come back then. Oh my God, this is killing. And we came back in 2 or 3 months, they're like, yeah, you did? Where do you think you'll be in another 2 months? The point is, the data did all the talking. I didn't have to pitch the company. The data, the metrics, said everything.
Yeah, VCs.
VCs are not there, I don't think, in the innovation business. They're in the risk mitigation business. So, you know, if there's risk, they walk away. That's my opinion.
Which is
which is why actually the Indiegogo campaign exactly works so well, because Scan to Scout, for example, and I have a student or a great example of that too. But Scan to Scout, the first ever medical tricorder, you know, a lot of VCs were passing on that or skeptical. Medical tricorder being like straight out of Star Trek, I know you probably geeky crowds, not everybody needs this explained, but a few of you are like, what did he just say? So like a device that, you know, like bones can go, ooh, and just say, oh yes, you're healthy, you know, for Captain Kirk. Well, people actually created that on Indiegogo and they raised like, I don't know, $1.7 million, and then within the next 6 months they got a $10.5 million pay round.
Alright, so for you know, these grab a couple of people are potential Indiegogo users or actual Indiegogo users. What's the pitch? I mean, you're starting to see, you know, a number of people sort of, you know, thinking that he's so great that they're doing it themselves. What's the fundamental advantage that Indiegogo offers over DIY?
Yeah, so you know, since Indiegogo created this industry, there's over 1,000 competitors actually that have come out. It's really interesting because some of those competitors are now funded on Indiegogo. They say we're going to be like Indiegogo but better, which is actually totally fine. The reason it's fine is because what Indiegogo does is completely unique in the world. No other platform actually does it, which is we're taking on the hard problem, which is to allow the crowd to be part of crowdfunding, which is there's absolutely zero judgment on Indiegogo. No human will decide anything. Not whether or not you're allowed on the site, not whether or not you have an application, not where you show up, not if you're on the homepage, not if in your newsletter. No humans are involved. Can you imagine telling Google, hey, please put me in this right spot? That's actually used to exist in search engines with Yahoo in the old days. And then some smart people figure out why don't we index the entire internet and figure out how to create algorithms to get the right supply versus demand, which is what we're doing on Indiegogo, which having that open marketplace is a very hard problem. It comes with discovery issues, fraud issues, compliance issues, global issues. We're in every country in the world. No other platform does that. We're totally merit driven, so you own your own control as to where you'll show up. And the Canary folks can speak to what it was like to actually go through the promotional cycles. We gave you coaching and such, but we didn't promise anything because we weren't allowed to, right? I mean, you can agree to that or not.
Yeah, that's right. We wanted more coverage and you just don't get it.
It's not about giving or not. I mean, when they earned it, they got tons of exposure. And I think when you got the newsletter, I don't know if you covered this, that came late. You guys got the newsletter, right?
Yeah.
And then, do you remember how much you raised in the next few days?
Yeah, no, I'm joking. It's true. I think that's great that it's all algorithm based. And when we were in the newsletter, it was like huge uptick the next day.
Do you remember, like?
I don't remember the number on it, but.
Yeah, it was probably like several,
It was significant. Absolutely.
Yeah. And the thing is, he didn't have to ask to be in the newsletter, even though I'm sure his team asked many times. We do it because he earned it, and it's just that simple, which it's a beautiful thing to know that you don't have to know the right person. Not everybody has the luxury of living in New York City and maybe knowing the right banker or the right person at the platform. So we treat the people in India or Idaho the same way, so it doesn't matter. And the last thing is our commitment to customer service. We have a very Amazon Zappos approach to customers, because to us, that's where it's at. It's just all about the customer. So it's very unique what we do in this industry. In terms of DIY, I mean, it's very clear to me, I think it's absolutely positively moronic to do it by yourself. It's not even a debate. There's actually no discussion to be had. Zero. Because whatever you can accomplish in your DIY effort, you will then get that plus more on Indiegogo. There is virtually zero probability that you will get less on Indiegogo than if you did it yourself. Now that's from the simple simplicity of just money, okay? So let's say you don't want to optimize money. Okay, I don't know why we're doing crowdfunding, that's fine. But let's say you don't want to optimize money. Let's say you want to do something else. You have to now deal with your own customer service. God bless you, I hope you have a team if you want to have 24 hours. Now you have to deal with payments across 185 countries. Well, maybe you don't care about 85 countries, you only care about 1 or 3. Okay, fine. 34% of all the money that comes in Indiegogo is from outside of the US, so if you want to ignore 34% of your funds, that's fine. Then you want to deal with fraud and stolen credit cards, and what about chargebacks, and what about the fact that there's people in Russia and China that are actually going to flow money right through your platform, and they're going to actually give you money, and then you're going to find out actually that was all stolen credit cards. Point is, the concept of a DIY funding is a today concept that 3 years from now will be as archaic as like dinosaurs.
How do you really feel?
I have 6.5 years of history to work through to understand how this industry has evolved. So.
That's awesome. Actually, what we have you, John, with the mic, can you, or actually, either one of you guys would like tell the VC and Indiegogo story about the guy who wired the, you've spoken about it publicly, so I don't know who wants to tell the story.
Well, Adam shared a story with me. Yeah.
Okay, good.
You want to, and basically, these guys were raising terms. You can correct me anytime, because obviously I work at Canary. But these guys were raising term sheets from, real VCs, and they got good offers, but not what they thought were good enough. So they're like, forget this, we're just going to go find some money on Indiegogo. Your first choice was not actually Indiegogo, your first choice was have VC funding, is that correct? Yeah, which is fine. I mean, that's cool. And, so they just put the power in their own hands, and they decided to raise money on Indiegogo, and then all of this risk, which was why part of the valuation was lower than they wanted, was starting to get mitigated. And every day, as the Canary campaign was going, everything that the VCs were saying, which is why your valuation is not as high, was just dwindling away. That risk was just going away and away. So then one of the VCs actually got in touch with one of their investors, and they actually tried to wire in the money at the valuation that they discussed. And I was like, are you joking? It's like crazy. I mean, talk about a shift in power, right? I mean, like market validation right in front of your face. Was that fair?
Yeah,
I mean, they literally got a person's bank account number from another investor and tried to quote unquote force money into their bank account and say, we agreed to the valuations that you wanted before the campaign.
That's a really terrible story. Right? I'm sorry I felt like it. So, how does a hardware or Internet of Things company run a successful campaign? So, you guys actually issued a hardware guide that's what we're going to read. Do you want to talk about sort of lessons learned and tips and tricks that you guys can make successful?
Yeah, so I mean, for those of you who don't know, Indiegogo is an open platform where anybody can raise money for absolutely anything, and the reason I repeat that is, so we have like Own Mallet raising money for a charity today, for Giving Tuesday. People will raise a ton of money today on Indiegogo for charities. We have Roger Ebert, the documentary about Roger Ebert is getting funded right now. There's a good chance, I didn't read the news today, but I think Sundance came out with their movie selections for this coming January, that it's going to get into Sundance, and it might be one of the anchors of the entire festival that's getting funded right now. And hardware is really important to us as well, and the point is diverse across every country of the world. What's interesting when you have this diversity is you actually start to see all the trends since we have the most data. And there's a few major themes, which is number one, have a good pitch, number two, be proactive, and number three, find an audience that cares. So number one, have a good pitch. If you have a video as part of your campaign, you raise 114% more money on average than if you don't have a video. If you, on average, your campaign will hit its target on day 36 of a 47-day long campaign. How long was the Canary campaign?
35.
35, there you go. So the average campaign will hit its target on day 36. And then average campaign will have 3 to 8 perks. Do you guys remember your information? How many perks you had?
We probably had about 8.
Yeah, so average campaign that hits its target will have between 3 to 8 perks. You want to have typically a low perk, a medium perk, and a high perk. Low is below 25, medium is 26 to 100, high is 101 to 500. You also typically want to have some ridiculous perk that's over $10,000. For 2 reasons. One, the press likes to talk about it, and it's shocking just because it's actually there. People will fund that specific perk. Do you guys have any crazy perks?
Yeah, we had $8,000.
8,000?
8,000, yeah.
Did anybody fund that?
Yeah, they did.
And if it was 9,000, they would have funded that too. Right? And if it was 7,000, they would have funded that. It's just interesting. It's only because it's there that people fund it. So that's why you want to have that crazy perk up there. It's true. It's totally the highest funded single perk in one swipe is $60,000 on Indiegogo. Meaning
What
not
did they get for that?
a bike.
What?
A bike, electric bike. Yeah, it's crazy, right? But now that it actually happened with one swipe, 60, like, one transaction. And, you want to be proactive, so you want to do updates. If you do an update every 5 days or less, or 4 times more money. Then if you do an update every 20 days or more, to hit 25% of your target within the first, if you hit 25% of your target within the first week, you're 5 times more likely to hit your target. I imagine you guys got off to a fast start. You guys?
We hit our target before lunch on the first day.
You what?
We hit our target before lunch.
Before lunch. When did you launch?
We launched at like 6 a.m.
Right, so you hit it in a few hours.
Yeah.
Right, so that's as good as it gets. You want to make sure to pull together a host committee, and how did you get so?
Why don't you come on over there?
Yeah, why don't you come up?
Yeah.
There you go. I mean, the reason I'm asking the question is because it's all in the customer. The customers come up with all the data because you just analyze the themes and the trends. The last thing is you want to find an audience that cares. Typically, you need to find the first third of the money through your own network, which obviously they did a good job. The second third of the money comes from the network's network, and then the last third of the money comes from our network. These are broad strokes. They're not rules. Sometimes we help bring 95% of the funds. Sometimes we never bring you $1 from Indiegogo. But those are the broad strokes. I mean, we love hardware campaigns. Like right now, there's Think Charger. I don't know if anybody's funded Think Charger. They're from New York, and thousands of people have funded like this really cool charger. Or Airtame, which is from Denmark, and it's a cool HDMI connector between any of your digital content onto your TV, or Pulse, which includes your sound, which I think now is nearly 500,000, 420 something as of today. But yeah, hardware campaigns are amazing. It's one of the fastest growing verticals categories on Indiegogo.
And is it important? So it sounds like you hit your campaign target very early on. I mean, so what's the trick that like you basically pre-seed the effort by reaching out to a bunch of friendly people so that you avoid the ghost town effect where sort of 3 days and it's like $2?
Well, the generic theme, and you can speak any details, but the generic theme is nobody. So here's the secret to make sure everybody knows. On no platform, anywhere in the world, is any moron going to fund your stupid campaign that's like 4% funded. No stranger is going to fund that. Anyway, if I just broke your bubble, then you have like a whole reality check to go through. The way it works is you need to make sure to prove to them, these crazy strangers, that they should fund you. The only way you can do that is psychologically get past 1/3 of your goal. Now you might say to yourself, well, that just sounds simple. 1/3 of a really small number is a small number. Well, that is totally correct, mathematicians.
So,
And it's all psychology, which is, the funny thing is, and it actually isn't about Indiegogo. This is like so innate in our nature, okay? So you know there's 2 people that run a marathon, and one person runs a marathon and they want to raise money for charity and they raise $7,500, Jack. And Jack wanted to raise $10,000 as his target. He was like, Jack, buddy, dude, what's going on? You can't, like, come on, 7.5 out of 10. You could have done a little bit better. He did it from 100 funders, 7,500. Then Jennifer raised $7,500 from 100 funders. Her goal was $2,500. Jennifer is doing really well. Jennifer is pretty awesome. Tripled her target. Go, Jennifer. It's all psychology. That's all it is. And the funny thing is, to show you how much psychology matters, is let's just say you want to be one of those people who are smarter than me and don't want to listen to the data. You say, no. My hardware device actually costs $20,000. There's no way I'm setting my target at at $10,000. It doesn't matter, 2 million, 25 million, 20,000, the numbers don't matter, right? It's $20,000. Like, okay, but if you set it at 10,000, you'll probably move faster. No, I'm not doing this for 10,000, it's 20,000. Okay, fine. So what happens is when you have a small crowd and you end up raising, $2,000 from your network, and there's all these strangers that are checking it out because they're discovering it through the section on Indiegogo, they're like, $2,000, I don't think this is gonna happen. I'm not funding this. You just lost all those people, so then nobody can build on top of that, okay? Take that exact same situation, you set it at $10,000, you hit it 3,000 instead, you're now at 30%. Believe it or not, the data shows that these strangers are actually gonna start funding you. Now what happens is when those strangers start funding you, now all of a sudden you're at 68%. Now you're hitting the go-go factor and all these things are happening, you're starting to get all this exposure on Indiegogo, and before you know it, you're at $39,000. You wanna know why? It's because psychologically, money velocity speeds up the closer you get to your goal, and it does not slow down much after you hit your goal. But no moron wants to be part of your campaign that's 20% funded. So why don't you just work on the psychology of that and set it up correctly?
Do you help
Funny thing, we'll make less money too, right?
Do you help people with that, with finding the right targets for their business, for their product?
Yeah, so Indiegogo is completely self-service, so anybody can do anything, and you can set up your campaign, get it funded in the next 20 minutes. But if you have any questions, we have our customer happiness team. We're very proud of them and guaranteed responses within 24 hours. You can ask any questions, we'll answer anything you want. If you want hands-on advice, if you want people to review your campaign, we'll do it. Do you need to have a review? No. Do you need to have it accepted? No. If you want to have it reviewed and checked, we'll do that. And then we also have our awesome team, which works with really amazing campaigns to help them do great, which I know with the Canary team we did that.
Great. So I want to open it up to the audience. Name and company. Charles.
Charles Hamilton. Can you actually be more specific about that psychology? Would you mind, will have some of your team share some of the insight?
Oh, I mean, all of this is on our blog. If you go to blog/insights, indiegogo.com/blog/insights, it's all there. I mean, what would you like me to share?
Well, you seem to indicate there's a sweet spot. There's a tipping point where people actually come on board.
A third is the generic, which is you need to find your first third of your money, the second third comes from the network, and the last third generically will come from Indiegogo's network. Those are high-level, broad strokes.
Gotcha. But if only it's coming at 10 rather than 20, how do you actually make that decision?
Well, we don't make that decision, you make that decision because you can do whatever you want. But we help advise you based on what you think you can actually reach by yourself as well as what you realistically think is your required target. Often people think about how much money they want. The number you want is irrelevant. It's how much money do you need. The need number is often significantly lower than the want number. The want number will be accomplished by going after the need number and going over it.
Just a follow-up, is that okay?
Yep.
The other company, you have a mission, all we need.
You can mention Kickstarter as much as you want.
I'm just curious how you might, as an entrepreneur, advise other entrepreneurs, one versus the other.
I tell them to go with Indiegogo. Listen, there's no other platform that does what we do, right? There's not, which if you heard me 10 minutes ago, which is if you want an open platform that allows you to do anything you want in any country that you want, that's merit-driven, there will be promotion based on your potential, what you deserve, based on what you earn, and a customer support team that guarantees responses within 24 hours and will always answer any question you have, it's not really a debate. And if you want to get into more details, we're also the cheaper player. We're also cheaper in terms of third-party fees. We have zero leakage. One of the hidden secrets is that other platforms, including Kickstarter, you can lose up to 44% of your funds after the campaign closes. So I just want to repeat what you just heard there.
Is that right?
Oh yeah, no, totally.
What does that mean?
Leakage is when you know when the green bar moves over, right? The reason the green bar moves over is because there's money that's been brought in, right? Everybody with me? The thing is, on most platforms, they do what's called a pledge model, which means the money is kind of like an IOU, meaning the green bar has moved, but the money is not there. So later, when the money is actually pulled, a lot of money often gets leaked, okay? And on Indiegogo, there is zero leakage because we take the money right away. So there's plenty of reasons to go with Indiegogo. The short answer is I tell them to go with Indiegogo. But if you have any other questions on it, you can just email me. I'm Slava at Indiegogo, I'm at Gogo Slava. I'm probably going to pass you off to our hardware lead because they're the experts and our team awesome, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Who we lost at the background?
Hi, Robert Housley.
And I think actually that most of the hardware biggest campaigns of the last 6 months have all been on Indiegogo. All of them.
Do you see an opportunity for what you guys have done at this level of startups to actually be something that the small and medium businesses who are out there who don't qualify for traditional bank loans might have an opportunity to get actually lower cost of money today? There's a huge market of small businesses that are paying like 20% more.
What do you do? What do you do?
Invest.
You are. You are a smart investor, for sure. Yes, that is a very investor question. I think, yes. So that is all part of the brand strategy of Indiegogo. I'm not really giving away secrets, which is the incredible thing about our capital markets is that in the old days, there used to be no credit cards 70 years ago, and now every bank in the world offers credit cards, not because it's cheap, but because it's good for business. So in my opinion, within the next 10 to 15 years, every bank in the world will offer Indiegogo. And if it's not Indiegogo, we go out of business, whatever, they'll be offering crowdfunding. Now he's totally spot on. The reason is because most small businesses get turned down. So if you don't have revenues for at least 2 years, you're not even allowed to be accepted. And if you have revenues over 2 years, you're most likely going to get denied anyway because of credit risk models. So the interesting thing for a bank is a small business today becomes a big business tomorrow. And a small business today that you turn down, you actually would have accepted them for their college loan, their car loan, their home loan, and all these other things, but because their entry point was the small business loan, you've lost that customer forever because they say F you. The average small business in the US will start with $6,000. $6,000. And even Facebook started with whatever it was, $21,000. Right? So the really interesting thing is with Indiegogo in the future, we'll become the best friends of the CMO of any bank, let's say Citibank here in America, because we'll let them change their slogan to Citibank, where we never turn down a small business again. Now, to its point, there's 3 reasons why that will happen. Number 1 is because you don't have to turn them down, so you get to retain them as a customer, you get to upsell them and cross-sell them on all the other products, right? Number 2, what they'll say is, you know, you don't come in for my 5.1% loan, I have to turn you down for that, but I can say yes to you for my subsidized Indiegogo product, right? Because Citibank will just pay us, and you'll get to use the Citibank Indiegogo product for free, which is going to be good for you. Plus, they're going to want to be helpful to the local community, so they'll promote it through all their branches and through all their people. Number 2 is they actually get to get more data to improve their credit risk models to exactly what you said, which is instead of a 5.1% loan, they'll actually have more data, so they'll turn it into a 5.3% loan, because you're a little more risky than we thought, but now we have more information, but we'll give you that loan, or we'll give you a 4.1% loan because you've proven to us that you can actually get as much of the consumer traction that you say. And the best thing is the bank will now get all of these people to become their #1 marketers, and the bank will not have to pay them a penny, which then enters endless customers to cross-sell and upsell. So yes. I mean, if what you're seeing here, I mean, I'm drinking my own Kool-Aid, but I think you're seeing the beginning of the world changing. You're seeing the YouTubeization of funding. You're seeing exactly what's happened in the media industry for the last 50 years will slowly now happen in capital markets in the next 20 to 50 years. The concept of a centralized pool of money, to me, I think will be gone. I think it will be very interesting. That doesn't mean Citibank will be gone, because they might still control a lot of the wires and such.
My name is Amanda. My question is about the early dynamics around building your marketplace. You mentioned that you focus on the supply side. Can you talk a little bit about any efforts that you made on the demand side, whether it was around, actually tipping projects in the beginning to get momentum up, or any sort of, psychological and things that you put in place that helps to build up excitement on the demand side?
Yeah, so we were very supply side focused because I was a strategy consultant for 8 years before I started Indiegogo, and my brain, whether right or wrong, my brain said the strategy of going after the funder, the demand side, was very expensive. And we were a bootstrap company, and we didn't have the money to go after that tactic. So we spent very little money on the demand side, but an interesting story, which I think will shock many of you because it often does, but will show you the history of how this industry evolved, is when we started this entire space, we created fixed funding, meaning we invented fixed funding, okay, in January 2008. And it's funny because probably some of you are saying, wait, I didn't even know you can fix funding. Right, so fixed funding means you only get your money to hit your target. Probably some of you are saying, oh, isn't Indiegogo the site where you get your money no matter what? Any of you? Yeah? Yeah. So the interesting thing was within 6 months, how many people complained? And you think that sure, campaign owners are going to complain. They don't get all their money, they hit 80%, they're upset. No, that wasn't what mattered, because obviously campaign owners are going to complain. We're protecting the funders. If you hit 80%, you're not going to be able to do what you say you did, so clearly funders don't want you to give the money. But we had endless complaints from the funder side that they were so upset that people were not getting the money that they had given to them through Indiegogo. So talking about improving the demand side, a huge thing that we did was we actually created the option for the campaign owner, which was to create fixed or flexible funding, which now flexible funding means you get your money no matter what. How much you raise is a very significant portion of all the money that goes through Indiegogo. But it was mostly focused on the supply side in the early days. It's a lot more focused on the demand side these days. The one thing we did very early from the demand side is we right away opened up our payments channels, which took a lot of technological innovation to be able to fund across any country in the world. Which still, no other platform does that in terms of distributing money in 100 countries a week.
Hi, the question based on the psychology aspect that you pointed out. I'm wondering if you're seeing any issues or have heard any issues with self-funding, where people are trying to create the impression that there's a lot of interest in whatever it is that they're doing, and how you feel about that, whether it's a problem for the platform or for crowdfunding altogether.
Yeah, I forgot to answer your question. We actually, the first campaign that we had that was about to hit its target, it was about at 7,500 out of 10,000 target, our first campaign ever that was actually doing well. And it had 3 days left, and my two co-founders and I were like, maybe we should put some money in that because we really need this to tip, because this is going to be our first case study. This is going to be awesome. And then we argued with ourselves, no, because if we put in the money, it's not legit, and if it's not legit, then we don't really know if it's a case study, because then what if we keep on building this product off of a fake case study, and then what if we don't know if it's real, all this stuff. We just philosophical. Anyway, arguing with ourselves forever. We ended up deciding not funding it. But the cool thing is the tip by itself, which is great. Which is the answer to your question, which is going to segue to your question, which is what we do with our fraud and trust team is we analytically analyze where the money is coming from, both geographic region, which computers, which bank account, which credit cards, all that good stuff. We're not against self-funding per se, but we're against the manipulation of the system. So if it looks as if somebody is trying to hide the fact that something is happening, then our trust team gets involved. But it's quite transparent who's funding stuff, and if anything looks as if it's anonymous, large, whatever, that looks as if it's credited to somebody else, our trust team gets involved.
It's transparent to you or to everybody?
Well, it should be transparent to everybody, and if it's actually hidden and they're lying, then our trust team is getting involved.
Gotcha.
So time for one last one. We have time.
Eric Schell, Kholsa. My question is for both of you actually. Again, this is kind of geared towards the self-funding, but not self-funding with financing, but self-funding with Facebook likes or popularity amongst consumers. And there have been a couple campaigns, I know the Tire app did self-funding, which was financially based. There's another one, it slips my mind, but it may have been phone blocks or something like that, that did like 20 or 30 million likes from Facebook. I'm just wondering if, from Indiegogo's perspective, you know, because of the drawbacks you spoke about, like, do you see this as like a viable way forward for kind of VC raising money or raising money for starts? And again, with Matt, like from a VC perspective, like, is this enough to show traction, or is this something that may be interesting to VC?
I'm not sure if I exactly understood the question. What's explicitly the question?
The question is, do you think that, so, you know, if you instead of raising money on your own to self-fund it, and you raise 20 million likes on Facebook for your product without using Indiegogo?
Oh, meaning if you prove traction through likes and not money?
Yes, that's correct.
To me, this is just my opinion, you only know the value of your likes when you actually try to convert it to dollars. So it's irrelevant until the actual funding experience. Because even like on Twitter, sometimes there's completely bogus, massive million Twitter follower accounts, right? So who's to know the validity of your perceived likes traction, and you only know traction once you ask to convert it to dollars. So if I were a VC, I would say, wonderful, you have 20 million likes, go convert that into money.
Yeah, very particular to somebody, you know, that name, but I would agree. It's one thing to click on a like button, which takes you half a second, and doesn't require any kind of investment in time and thought, and actually putting, you know, money into something. So evidencing traction is clearly much more powerful to have a successful Indiegogo campaign. Cool. So as I said, we actually way over time, but that was super interesting. So I wanted to keep running it longer. You're going to be here for like another few minutes.
Yeah, and then like I said, it's at Go with Slava or Slava at Indiegogo. I try to respond to my emails always within 24 hours. I'm not so great at it, but in general, that's what I do. And if you want to watch Bloomberg News tomorrow morning, 7:30 a.m., I'll be on the news.
All right, thank you so much.